What if I told you that trading away one of your franchise's greatest players could actually lead your team to the NBA Finals? If you're a Pacers or Thunder fan, you'll understand what I mean. Paul George was a superstar for both teams, yet they're meeting in the finals after trading him away. I'm your host Kyle, and welcome to Basketball Business, where we uncover the money moves behind the hardwood. If you're a fan of these types of breakdowns, hitting the like and subscribe buttons really makes a difference. It tells YouTube this is content worth recommending and pushes more deep dives just like this directly to your feed. Today, we're diving into one of the most ironic storylines in NBA history: how two teams traded away the same superstar and somehow both ended up better because of it. Let's set the stage. At his peak, Paul George was a legitimate MVP candidate for both Indiana and Oklahoma City. Usually, when you trade away a superstar like that, it's a death sentence for your franchise, especially small market ones like them. But not this time. Instead, both teams are meeting in the 2025 NBA Finals without PG. And perhaps even more impressive, they're doing it without paying the luxury tax or making any splashy free agent signings. Just elite asset management, smart scouting, and patience. Let's start with Oklahoma City, because what Thunder general manager Sam Presti has managed to pull off is genuinely insane. This whole thing starts back in 2016. The Thunder are trying to convince Kevin Durant to stay. So they trade Serge Ibaka to Orlando for Victor Oladipo and the draft rights to Domantas Sabonis. KD leaves anyways. But Presti, he's just getting started. 1 year later, he packages Oladipo and Sabonis and sends them to Indiana for Paul George. Here's the thing. PG was seen as a flight risk when Sam Presti traded two young prospects for him. He only had 1 year left on his deal, and there were very strong indicators that he wanted to join the Lakers in free agency. But the Thunder were able to convince him to re-up on a 4-year deal. 1 year later in 2019, the Clippers come calling. They want to pair Paul George with Kawhi Leonard, and Presti, he absolutely fleeces them. Now look, this trade is often labeled as one of the worst in NBA history. And with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander turning into an MVP as the Clippers came up short, it looks brutal in hindsight. But context matters. Paul George had just finished top 3 in both MVP and Defensive Player of the Year voting. Kawhi Leonard was called by many the best player in the world and coming off his second title. Without PG, the Clippers don't get Kawhi. That trade wasn't just for one star. It was a 2-for-1 deal that made the Clippers finals favorites for the first time in franchise history. And at the time, every response I remember, Clippers fans or otherwise, saw this as a win for LA. If you have a chance to get two top 10 players in their prime, you do it. Every single time. But seriously, Serge Ibaka somehow turned into Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, plus a mountain of draft picks that have the Thunder set up for a potential dynasty. One of those picks was already used to select Jalen Williams, an all-NBA caliber two-way wing and the second option on a very strong finals team. This wasn't just a series of trades. Sam Presti put on a masterclass of long-term asset management.
What don't you understand about finessing?
If you remember, the Pacers were on the other end of the first Paul George deal we just broke down. And their side of the story, equally as crazy. They trade Paul George to Oklahoma City and get back Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. Two guys who hadn't really broken out yet. So most people thought Indiana got fleeced. Trading a superstar for two unproven players? Come on. But then, Oladipo becomes an all-star. Sabonis becomes an all-star. And suddenly, Indiana looks like geniuses. And they're not done. They eventually ship Domantas Sabonis to Sacramento, and guess who they get back? Tyrese Halliburton, the man leading them to the finals. And that trade tree kept growing. They flipped Oladipo as part of the 3-team deal that sent James Harden to Brooklyn, which landed them Karis LeVert, who was later turned into Andrew Nembhard, Ben Shipperd, and picks that helped bring in Pascal Siakam. So depending on how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go into, the Pacers turned Paul George into nearly half of their playoff rotation today. It's not flashy, but it's surgical.
If you take the red pill, I will open your eyes and you will see just how deep the rabbit hole goes.
I'll take the blue pill.
Wait, now the blue will keep you in the program.
There's a weird symmetry here with these two teams. This wasn't one of those "the dynasty starts after you leave" stories. This was a long process. New coaches, new identities, new rosters. Both franchises took Paul George, his talent and his trade value, and used it to launch completely different eras. He wasn't dead weight. He was the bridge to the next era. And here's the business angle that no one's talking about. These finals represent the most cost-efficient championship race in modern NBA history. Neither team is paying the luxury tax. This is the first time since the luxury tax was implemented in 2001 that this has occurred. In an era where teams are dropping almost $500 million in payroll and penalties to compete, both Indiana and Oklahoma City have built finals contenders on a budget. Oklahoma City's big three of Shai, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren, 2 of those guys came from the Paul George trade tree. They're paying pennies compared to other contenders while they have their core roster on rookie deals. And Indiana's core, built through smart trades and player development. No max free agent signings, no desperate overpays. It's like both teams found a cheat code for championship building.
You can't keep getting away with it! You can't keep getting away with it!
Look, I'm not saying trading away your superstar is some guaranteed path to success. Most of the times, when you trade away your MVP finalist, your team gets worse. Look at what happened with Dallas this season. But what Oklahoma City and Indiana prove is that smart front offices can turn any situation into an opportunity. Sam Presti turned one Serge Ibaka trade into a potential dynasty. Indiana GM Kevin Pritchard turned one Paul George trade request into 3 All-Stars. These aren't accidents. This is elite asset management. And for teams like Philadelphia, maybe this is the roadmap. Trade Paul George, have competent leadership, build through smart moves and player development, and who knows, maybe you'll be in the finals a few years from now. What's true though is that this year's finals aren't just about basketball. They're about organizational philosophy. And they're about 2 franchises that turned losing Paul George into maybe the best thing that ever happened to them. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed or learned something new, please like, subscribe, and share with someone you think would enjoy. Let me know in the comments who you think is going to win the finals. Subscribe to Basketball Business for more great content on the off-court moves that make the on-court plays. Until next time, this is Kyle with Basketball Business.